wanted to go over and just show everybody what's involved when we are done with UCC with the compound turbos and we are switching over to the single turbo for summer of pulling. So threw together some time lapse and some footage here just kind of outlining that process. We start by getting the thing up on the hoist, get the wheel out of the way, and removing all the piping for the compound setup. So oil lines, clamps that is required, and we've got a really nice modular setup that was built by Whirly Custom Fab that's been really nice. It fits every time we switch things around, lines right up, has held up very well, and all the powder coating and such was also done by Whirly. I do pull the front end off the truck just to make things a little easier. It gets out of the way pretty quick and just allows a little more space to work around things. We're removing the air guillotine and other pieces and parts that need to come off for this swap here. The system uses a combination of V-band clamps as well as the Vibrant. Just allows everything to line up quick and easy, and it's been a very reliable setup. Here's the atmosphere charger coming up and out of the way. Now we'll start working on getting the manifold charger out of the way. We do have to split the charger apart in order to get some of the bolts accessible. Once we've got the turbos off, then we can go ahead and start removing the exhaust manifold on the right hand side of the engine. We have a different manifold that will run for the single turbo setup and allows that turbo to get up higher in the engine bay, whereas with the compound setup, that high pressure or manifold mounted turbo does sit down pretty low just to make everything fit in there. So all those bolts will come out, and the sensors as well for the temp sensors and drive pressure. And then last, we'll remove all the bolts that hold the manifold to the cylinder head. With that out of the way, I've set all the pieces up that we've removed so you can kind of get an idea what we've got there. There's the hot pipe in between the turbos, the turbo mount for the atmosphere charger, as well as the piping between the turbos and then up into the intercooler, as well as the exhaust stack that goes up to the hood. Here's the atmosphere turbo that we've pulled off. And then the manifold charger is an S400 based unit. Here we got the two manifolds side by side. The top one is the one we just removed for the twin turbo setup. And we'll have to pull out these temp sensor bungs so that we can switch them over into the other manifold. Here we are getting the sensor bungs and stuff mounted in the manifold for the single turbo setup. Those all just screw right back in place, and we'll use the same sensors right in there. Also set on the table now is the pieces for the single turbo. So the auxiliary mount, the piping, exhaust manifold. So when I put these manifolds on any sealing surface for the exhaust, I like to run a thin bead of high temp RTV along with the gaskets. That's just going to help ensure that things stay sealed up. These things do shift around a lot with the temps that we're running, and this just keeps everything sealed up tight so we don't have any leaks. And we'll put the sealer on all the mating surfaces, both sides of the gaskets. Once that sealer is applied, we'll go ahead and mount the other manifold. A lot to hold on to in there without trying to smear silicone all over the place, so it's a little bit cumbersome until a couple of the bolts get started. But after that, it mounts in pretty quick. Everything lines right up nice. There's plenty of room for working around everything. With all the bolts started, we'll go ahead and snug everything up tight and get it torqued down. We will come back after a heat cycle and just go over all these bolts one more time just to make sure they are tight. Now that we've got the manifold installed, we'll install this support piece, which mounts to the base of the block as well as the manifold, and that helps hold the weight of that turbo, so the weight is not just sitting on the manifold itself. And then with that, we'll go ahead and get all the exhaust temp sensors routed and back in, as well as the drive pressure sensor. And then we can go ahead and get the turbo installed. And to do this, I will pull the exhaust housing off, which just gives a lot more room to get the bolt started. Again, with a bead of high temp silicone. And then we'll go ahead and get the exhaust housing mounted. Once that's done and the bolts are tight, then I will slide in the center section and get that positioned. And once that is installed, we can go ahead and get the cover on. After the turbo is mounted and put back together, we can start getting the pipes routed back in place. Hopefully this just shows you kind of what was going on. It's a couple-hour job in real time. If there's any questions you have on it, be happy to answer them. Just drop a comment below. And if there's anything on this setup that you'd like more information on or more detail on, maybe we can get that put together as well, just to further explain what's going on here. So appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.